All right. So I came across the Flat Earth Conference of 2019 down in Dallas, Texas. I thought I'd check it out. And one of the presentations talks about the history of the heliocentric model versus the geocentric model and where the flat earthers are going. You know, they call it a continuance of their ideology for the flat earth. Of course, you know, flat earthers deny everything about the globe earth, but I was interested enough to take a look. Let's check it out. Hello, I'm Jonni Glitch, and I'm on a quest for conspiracy nonsense.
So what Michael had just showed is that the whole entire world believed in a cosmology that was not a sphere Earth. It was not a heliocentric model, right? Everything was enclosed cosmology. Everything was based upon a flat Earth with a dome over it. Everybody knew this, right? So when did things start to change? And that's where it begins to get very interesting. You start to see the 6th century BC. You start to see this is when Pythagoras jumps onto the scene and he starts supporting the idea of a sphere Earth.
Whoa. Mystic Pythagoras? I didn't know that was his first name. Mystic Pythagoras. Whoa, that's pretty cool. You know, if you shorten it, it's like Mystic Path.
We're on a mystic path, and you're invited.
Mystic Path. That's pretty cool. Mystic Pythagoras. You know what? Oh, wow, yeah. Can you imagine if your name was Mystic Path? That'd be cool as hell, wouldn't it? Mystic Path. You'd be DJ.
Ladies and gentlemen, DJ Mystic Path.
Well, in all sincerity, Pythagoras probably was what we consider a mystic. Yeah, he would go off on his own and think a lot on several different things, and then come back and have answers. And everybody was like, whoa, Pythagoras, what a mystic. So a mystic is someone who generally thinks a lot. Maybe thinks a lot on his own, or ponders the questions of the world and the universe around us when nobody else thinks of these questions. He thinks of odd questions. He is credited with coming up with the Pythagorean theorem and the calculations having to do with right triangles. He was a mathematician, he was an astronomer, and most notably he was a philosopher. He would walk around, he would go under trees and just think. Then he would come back and have some crazy answers and nobody believed him. Everybody thought he was nuts. That's probably why they called him a mystic. But that's what philosophers do, don't they? They think. Pretty crazy. Putting a name out in front of someone doesn't change the meaning of who they are. Like Mystic Pythagoras. He didn't have to put mystic in front of his name.
Like I said, we're going to be going through much, much more detail in this. 5th century. Every century, a new layer, a new avenue started to build upon the idea, and it started with the early Greeks and the Romans. You start to see this, and it was all based upon a very simple premise that we're going to show you why the deception is so heavy. Aristotle, 4th century, very famous, obviously, right? This is when he was believing that the earth was not even of great size. So this is the foundations of the early forms of the heliocentric model. Then you've got 3rd century, the earth is a sphere, even with all the flat, leveled water, right? And even ideas starting to form from there. Then you have the occultist Eratosthenes, right? This is a big famous one. This is the one that we all get, right? Everywhere we go, everybody's talking about obelisks. Who here knows what an obelisk is? Everybody, right? I'm just speaking to the choir, right? So an obelisk, right? But if you know what an obelisk really is, it is the occult symbol of their god, their phallic symbol of Nimrod. And what did they do? Well, the shadows of it dictated the circumference of the earth. I believe it was around 28,000 he came up with, and yet we now know it's about 24,900.
Oh. Oh. Oh, wow. Do you know what you just did? You did a three-way comparison relationship of three different topics using three different subjects of three different time frames. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Oh, let me get this straight. So, Eratosthenes looks down a well, sees the sun, decides if it happens somewhere else in the world. So he decides to travel to Alexandria. There he finds an obelisk, looks at the shadow, and the shadow determines the circumference of the earth. Now this is all because of the obelisk, which pays homage to Nimrod's penis. No, that don't make sense. Wait, something's not right. Okay, let's start with Nimrod. Okay, so the story of Nimrod starts at about 2,000 years before Eratosthenes. And as the story goes, he is the king of Babel. Now, he's famous for the infamous Tower of Babel, in which defiance of humanity causes God to rain his wrath by causing everyone to speak different languages. Okay. So Nimrod is the origin of different languages around the world. So where do obelisks come in? Okay, wait. Okay, he's a king. Okay, I get that. Babylon. Yeah. Okay, so maybe this is it. Okay, he's from Babylon, and which is in Mesopotamia, which is in modern-day Iraq. No. Wait a minute. Obelisks aren't from Iraq. Obelisks were made by the ancient Egyptians to honor their gods, most notably their sun god Ra. It also paid tribute to the achievements of their king. King Nimrod. Yeah. No, wait. King Nimrod was not Egyptian. He was Babylonian, Mesopotamian. Okay, so obelisk. Now I'm not getting that. Okay, let's go back to Eratosthenes. Okay, he came to Alexandria, looked at an obelisk, saw the shadow, and said, "Yeah, that's it." Well, there are accounts that suggest Eratosthenes brought his own staff and used his staff to see the shadow. So maybe the obelisks had nothing to do with it. Because after all, obelisks are constructed to honor their gods, honor their kings and achievements. They're also placed in front of temples to honor the god within the temple. But no, I don't see Nimrod anywhere. No, I don't. Okay, now I'm starting to see the failings here. I'm not getting it. How do these three things compare to each other? Eratosthenes, who may or may not have used an obelisk, and all obelisks are phallic symbols of Nimrod. Oh, I think I got it now. I get it. So Eratosthenes saw the sun cast the rays down the well. He went all the way to Alexandria to see if it happened there, saw the sun cast a shadow off of Nimrod's penis, and it determined the circumference of the earth. That's it. I got it. I can't wait to tell my friends. I got this.
By the time, which is interesting, discovering Islamic cosmology, we all would say from the Quran it's a flat earth book, but their origins are based on Hellenistic astronomy, which is globe-based, which is very interesting and has a very important part in history, in which we can only touch a little bit on all this stuff. You got, of course, Magellan. He didn't prove that the earth was a globe, but he circumnavigated it, right? It's their proof. So they've got ships over the horizon. Now they've got circumnavigation. It's becoming a closed case. So by the time you get to the 16th century, the third model of Copernicus' revolution, of his model on his deathbed, he revealed the full plan that we have today.
Okay, Magellan. Yeah, Magellan circumnavigated the globe. No, he didn't. It would be easy for me to say, no, Magellan didn't circumnavigate the globe. He died halfway along the way. Someone else finished for him. End of story. But Magellan deserves more of an explanation than that. You see, Magellan, being from Portugal, tried to get the King of Portugal to fund an expedition to the west. His whole point was not to circumnavigate the globe. It was to find a western route to the Spice Islands in the Far East. Well, the King of Portugal declined his offer and declined his request to form the expedition. So Magellan didn't give up. He went to the King of Spain. So you see, at the time, Spain and Portugal were on good terms. So the King of Spain finally gave in and decided to fund an expedition to the west to find the Spice Islands. After all, the Spice Islands were highly profitable. So Magellan said, yay, okay. He took 5 ships, 270 men, and off he went. It wasn't easy. Oh, no. This trip from Spain to South America, all the way across the Pacific, and as fate would have it, Magellan ended up in the Philippines, and that's where some more explanation is needed. You see, he made it all the way to the Philippines, and some of his officers are documented as asking Magellan to keep pressing on to the Spice Islands, but Magellan wanted to explore the Philippines a little bit more, and that was his fate. See, he found a small island of Cebu, which happened to be one of the main trade points in the Philippines to China, and he stayed there for a while. Being the devout Catholic that he was, he tried to convert the natives to Christianity, and it worked a little bit. Even some of the native chieftains were baptized. Yay! Go Magellan! But he wouldn't stop there. He claimed the Philippines in the name of the King of Spain, King Charles I at the time, and wanted everybody in the Philippines to accept that. Well, didn't happen. You see, there's a small island off the coast of Cebu called Mactan Island. And on that island was a tribal chieftain named Lapu-Lapu. Lapu-Lapu didn't want the Spaniards there, and he wasn't going to convert to Christianity, and there was no way he was going to give up his island to the King of Spain. Well, Magellan wouldn't have anything of it, took 60 of his men, went over to Mactan and said, "You will accept it or we will kill you." Well, when Magellan and his crew arrived, there was Lapu-Lapu and 1,500 of his warriors. Yeah, it didn't go over well for Magellan. They were slaughtered, including Magellan. So, Magellan died in the Philippines. So obviously there was no way he could have circumnavigated the globe, even though that wasn't his mission anyway. Juan Sebastian Elcano was a navigator on one of the other ships in Magellan's crew. Now, not all the Spaniards went with Magellan to fight Lapu-Lapu. Some of them stayed back in Cebu. So there were survivors that were not involved in the fighting. So what they did, they said, we've had about enough. We don't want to be here anymore. We want to go back home. So they did. They took about 40 men. Now, Juan Sebastian Elcano took the reins as the captain of the ship and headed west again. Ultimately, they did reach Spain again. The entire trip took 3 years. Juan Elcano is credited as being officially the first man to circumnavigate the globe. It took a lot. Out of the 40 men on his ship that made it to Spain, only 18 survived. The others died of starvation. They went through hostile waters because the Portuguese actually controlled those waters and did not want the Spanish there. It was rough going. Juan Elcano and 18 of his men were the only ones left of the original 270 men that set out 3 years earlier. It was not an easy trip. So anyway, there you go. I filled in the blanks. Magellan did not circumnavigate the globe. He didn't try to. He didn't want to prove anything. He just wanted a western route to the Spice Islands. So get your facts straight.
But one thing that most people do not talk about is the Zohar. Who here knows what the Zohar is? Okay, so the Zohar is Jewish mysticism. It's Kabbalah. It is pretty much every aspect and realm, what is behind everything there. It is a satanic agenda. They were pumping out in the Zohar 1,500 years before the Copernican revolution, so you can predate that in the timeline, which it's not in there. They were writing specifically about how the Earth spun on its own axis and that the Earth was a globe.
If you've seen the scientists nowadays, and you've seen those videos where they go in the video and they say, the Zohar had modern heliocentrism all those years back. How did they do that? And they had no modern science. It's the occult thing that's just infiltrated science. Yeah. That's all it was.
Oh. Now that was brilliant. The occult thing that infiltrated science. So what did it do, Mike? Infiltrated science and told everyone the world was round. That's brilliant. So the occult infiltrated science, convinced all the scientists that they're wrong, it's not flat, and everything is round. And you should all believe it's round because we are the occult and we say so. Brilliant. That's a brilliant statement, Mike.
So, as we move on to this next slide, let me see if these things are... this is the Kabbalah, okay? So if you guys have heard of the Kabbalah, that is exactly what the Zohar is. And so we don't have time to go exactly into every detail of Kabbalah, but this is that satanic agenda that started way long ago before that timeline happened, which is still the root at cause. So every time you see occult symbolism in NASA, it is a prelude to what their gods and what their deities are, which is centered around Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, and a very satanic organization. So whatever we're talking about, Freemasonry, whatever realm we're talking about is all centered around this.
Oh man, there's a lot of conspiracy nonsense going around. It shut down the video signals to my ship. Had to come out here. Too much interference. Too much nonsense. So, the Zohar and the Kabbalah. So, you're saying the Zohar and Kabbalah are an evil religion, part of the occult, bad organization? What are you talking about? The Zohar is separate from the Kabbalah, although the Zohar does lay the foundation and the rules for practicing and teaching the religion of Kabbalah. The Zohar is made up of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible written by Moses. Yeah, that Moses. So you're not saying that the occult and satanic worship goes all the way back to Moses, are you? Well, you're not being specific enough. You're just throwing it out there saying the Zohar and Kabbalah are evil. Well, no, they're not. They're actually very peaceful religions that deal with deep thought, meditation, the oneness with God, the intimacy of God. They deal with the tree of life and the 10 lights of God. Yeah, called the 10 Sephirah, by the way. But the 10 lights of God explain everything that is in our world, in our universe. It talks about goodness, happiness, joy, and doing the right thing. And it starts with the Creator at the bottom, going all the way up to enlightenment. But Kabbalah is basically a peaceful religion. Now, yes, there are occult groups and satanic groups out there that claim the Kabbalah is the basis of their agenda and their religion that they practice, but they're practicing the dark side of Kabbalah, because Kabbalah teaches about the 10 lights of God. They practice the 10 darknesses of the 10 lights. So, if there's a light, there's a dark. And they claim that they practice the dark because as long as they're aware of what is dark, then they can avoid the dark. Well, it's kind of perverted in a way. They interpreted Kabbalism in their own fashion and made up an occult group. Yes, there are groups. There are books on Kabbalah magic and mysticism. It is a mystic religion dealing with a lot of deep thought. So to throw it out there to say that Kabbalah and the Zohar are bad organizations, no, you're completely wrong. Kabbalah is a peaceful religion, and the Zohar lays the foundation for that religion. So they are separate yet together at the same time. So quit throwing bad info out there. It's wrong. Yeah, so if you want to talk about bad organizations, start with Hermeticism, or Hermetic Kabbalah. There's one of them. There are other occult groups out there. Look for them if you want. I'm not. I have nothing to do with those and never want to have anything to do with those, so I'll keep pressing on. I'll stay here in my satellite, checking out the view. Not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah. So anyway, yep. I'm getting good signals. We got a video feed back in the ship, so we'll head back there. Well, alright, back in the ship. Everything looks normal now. We got a good video feed. But I tell you what, I'm going to end it here. I want to thank everybody for hanging out this long and kind of sticking around to the end. But I'm going to make part 2 of this because there's a lot more to see in the presentation from Chris and Mike. Besides, Mike's got some pretty interesting flat earth stuff coming up and I don't want you to miss it. I want to spend some time on that. It's going to be fun. Anyway, check out part 2. I'm Jonni Glitch, and I'm still on a quest for conspiracy nonsense. See you later.